My name is Phyllis Heeney. So this drum is 13-sided. We had 11 women string it all together. There was 3 of us that cleaned the skin and made the frame. And it's what we call our healing drum. And we use it whenever a bunch of us women get together. This is from my home farm. It's a cedar from my dad's farm. I set up a fence for the right size for this 12-inch frame. The angle is a 12.8 angle. Takes me a while to set it up, and I get mad when my husband uses it for something else and puts it on the 90. Okay, there we are, 12-inch frame. There, that's the pieces for a frame. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, perfect, 13. So there's the pieces for a 12-inch drum. Okay, now these are ones that I glued yesterday, but we can glue one today. Let's do a 10-inch. So I prepare them in the baskets. A drum for one basket has 2 drums in it. And on my table I've labeled where a 10-inch should go. You see? 10, 12, 13, 14.
Oh, good way to do it.
Now let's just see. Just going to sand this down so it's a little clearer. Okay, there, that's better. Okay. Now, my 10-inch drum. Okay. See, this wood was tongue and groove from the house, and so I was able to rip off the tongue, and it gave me this bevel on each piece. Yep, okay, we're there. So now I use condensation cured glue. So it needs to be wetted first. Very special. The stuff I reuse and reuse and reuse. Like these gloves. So they're just big hose clamps. Big honking hose clamps. And they work great to when you use the glue, you have to have pressure. So they work great to apply the pressure. Okay. That one. And they're pretty versatile for the different sizes of drums. So you'll notice I hold my knee against this hose clamp when I'm tightening it. I learned this from experience, that if you hold it like this and it spins up and hits you, it hit me in the bridge of my nose and left me a cut. War wound. So I don't do that anymore. Okay, so those hose clamps are ready. This great thing about this glue is that it's waterproof. So the benefit of that is if you have a drum and it starts, after it's stretched, it starts sounding soft and it needs to be restretched, you can soak the whole thing and it won't fall apart. I've had people give me drums to fix, and I put them in water and then they went all into all the pieces, right? But this glue is waterproof, completely waterproof.
Of course it's glue.
So you were asking about how long it takes to make a drum. When I add up all the time it takes me, including preparing the hide, making the frame, sanding the frame, and skinning the drum and dyeing it, it's about 10 to 15 hours for each drum. From start to finish, if you were to start and finish the drum, it would take about a month, if you include all the time it takes for drying and stretching and drying again. But I kept pretty good records when I was starting to make the drum to figure out how much to charge for a drum. I'm not making as much as I did when I was working at the plant, but I'm having a lot of fun. This is the last piece. Oh, I just started drumming, and then I thought, hey, I'd like one of those drums, and they're too expensive. I think I can make one. That was a set of African drums, the doon-doons. And so I went to some guy's house in Gatineau. I spent the day with him, and he taught me how to string a sangbun. Those are all good. Okay, now we're to the point of tightening it. Okay.
And I guess
It has to be rawhide, because a drum that is not made out of rawhide sounds dead. It doesn't have that beautiful bell-like sound that you get from a nice rawhide drum. I love it when people come into the store and they're looking at the drums and I say, play one. And as soon as they do, their eyes just light up. They never imagine them to sound like that. Okay. Now I just need to get it all evened up. Okay. Now, just make sure it's square. 10 1/4 inches. 10 1/4 inches, beautiful. So that needs 24 hours, and then that's ready to be sanded. Not bad. my downdraft table. So I sand over top of here to try to keep some of the dust out of the building. Doesn't always work. My husband isn't always happy with me. Okay, I'm going to turn on the vacuum. It's going to make a lot of noise. This is a bowl, just a normal salad bowl. But then when I take the bottom out or cut a hole in it, I make it into a drum frame. So I'm repurposing. These ones are bowls that were just in the Value Village. So I repurpose them into drums. They work out pretty well. The thing is that the frame is much quicker for me to make than a 13-sided frame, so I can charge a little less for these drums. So it makes them ideal for a kid or something because they're not as much money. They still have a decent sound. So this was quite a deep bowl. I cut it in half. The top half I've already made into drum, and now this bottom half I'll sand down, and this will be a wonderful drum. This is a smaller one, same deal. This one was a long piece, and I've cut it into two drums. I'm going to put two sides of leather on it to make it like a little two-sided drum. This one I will leave intact. I'll sand the edge down here, and I'll put beads in it, and then I'll put the skin on it, and it'll be like a rattle. It'll have a nice sound to it. This one I'll do the same thing. It'll be perfect with having some beads in here that can swish around and sound like the ocean. That's those. My husband made me this bench, and he made it just the perfect height for me. I'm only 5'1", so lots of things are not the right height for me. And the boards on it are from my home farm. My dad and I planed them down. They're willow and maple. Oh, and here's something interesting. You can see where the maple tree was tapped. Here's a tap hole. This is my stamp. You can see it's in the reverse image. And I have a variac with it, so I can heat it up to a different temperature depending on what kind of wood I'm using. And then I just use it on a block of wood. When it's hot, I count to about 30 seconds, and I have my stamp.
What's your name?
My name is Phyllis Heeney. My husband had this stamp made for me. He gave it to me for a birthday gift a few years ago. So right now, I am in the middle of punching a skin. This is a deer skin. I'm punching it with 19 holes. And this is where the lacing will go.
Why 19?
Well, 19, it has to be an uneven number. And I like to do a lot of holes so that it stretches evenly. But lots of people use less holes than that. But I think it does a nicer job. This drum that I'm stretching right now is going to be a 12-inch frame. The frame is 13-sided. You can see. Now the 13 sides symbolizes the lunar calendar because there's 13 moons in a year. So I think for this one, we will do a star pattern. So I'm going to fold it for a star pattern, just like you would fold a t-shirt for tie-dyeing a t-shirt, except it's a little more tricky. t-shirt, the dye will go right through the fabric, so it's not as tricky. Whereas this, with the leather, or with the rawhide, the dye won't soak through, so you have to be a little more careful. Now we're ready to start dyeing. Get my gloves on.
Those pretty heavy-duty gloves.
Yeah, don't ask. So, I dye using Q-tips. Hopefully soon they'll start making Q-tips without plastic stems. This one I think will do a standard rainbow. So we'll start with all the colors of the rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, green, turquoise, indigo, violet. Or as my science teacher taught me, Roy G. Biv.
Roy G. Biv?
Roy G. Biv. Red, orange, yellow, green, Biv, blue, indigo, violet.
There we go.
So we'll start with a nice red in the center. So the advantage of dyeing and not painting, you'll see some drums that are painted, but if you use your drum a lot, the paint will wear off. Whereas this is dyed right into the rawhide, so it won't. So if you include the amount of time that it takes to prepare the skin I start with the raw hide from a hunter and I have to flesh it, and then I have to dehair it. I take the meat that I take off the hide and I feed it to my chickens. I take the fat and I make it into soap so that I try to use as much of the animal as I can. Now normally the hunters would take their skin and either leave it in the bush or throw it in the garbage, so most of them are more than happy to see that it's getting used for something. So I dye it and then I have to leave it for 24 hours. Like that one I dyed yesterday and then I stretched it today. I leave it for 24 hours and then I'm able to stretch it. And then it takes about 2 days to dry. Depends on the weather. Now I'm wrapping it so that the dye won't all, if the dye all spreads out, it'll just end up the whole thing brown. So I'm wrapping it up. Keeps the dye where it's supposed to be, so I still keep that rainbow. Anyway, this one's ready to be stretched. We haven't done any stretching yet, have we? No, we can do that.
So good side down.
Good side down, and oh, here we go. This is important. My symbol on the inside.
Phyllis Heeney.
Handcrafted by Phyllis Heeney. My husband had that made for me too. Oh. 15 feet, that's not long enough. 35 feet, that's good. This is the lacing that I cut. I cut this lacing yesterday. This is how it works. I can go around the corner, kinda. Be real careful around the corner. Straight away is the easiest part, because that's how you can take a small deer and get a 70 feet worth of lacing if you need it. We needed 90 feet of lacing for that big drum upstairs. Now you can smell it. This is not for the faint of heart. So this is 35 feet of lacing, which should do a 13-inch drum. So 35 feet, I go halfway, 5, 10, 15, that's about halfway. Okay, so I'm just getting ready. Oh, I better get these out of the way. That would cause trouble. So I'm just getting ready to lace this. So this drum has 19 holes. So I start at the first hole and I lace in a star pattern.
Why?
Just like making a star, you want to be evenly, just like tightening the bolts on your tires, you want to do it evenly. That's basically what it is. So I start at 1 and I go to 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh, this one's only 15. Well, that's funny. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I did this one 15. Okay, so I do 15, 16, 9. 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. Start loose and you just keep on tightening and tightening and tightening and tightening. I won't make you have to stick around for all that. We'll just get it strung and then we can go on and do something else.
Fixed up my mistakes.
When you stretch it out, it gets pretty thin, and when it dries, it does too. I have a tool for making the lacing too that my husband made for me. I can show you that later if you want. Because I used to cut all the lacing by hand with the scissors, and my forearms were getting too big. Centered. Okay, perfect. Now then, this one goes over here. Almost done the last holes. The skin is a funny thing. You really can't predict it, how much it'll stretch compared to the last skin. And a moose is really different from a deer. But a buck is so different from a doe, from a calf, from a fawn. Okay. Now that I'm all the way around, then I can start to tighten. I put on a pair of gloves that gives me good grip. These from the dollar store are the best. I've tried other ones, and they're not near as good. Just round and round. That's it. I do it about probably 6 times over until I get less than an inch of stretch in the lacing. Then I know I'm close.